For decades, women suffered just for equal rights and equal laws. This is Women for America. Throughout the women's suffrage movement, there were many hunger strikes and peaceful protests to raise an awareness that equality matters.
Women are extremely vital to society and they deserve to be recognized. Women are so important and they do so much for the world.
How did they do this, you might ask? By persistence and devotion. These women never lost sight of hope that there would be a chance to make a change.
With all of the peaceful protests and the persuasion to the government, the 19th Amendment allowed women the right to vote as of 1920.
They all came together to work toward making a change in society. All of their hard work paid off and America was greatly benefited.
Susan B. Anthony was yet another huge supporter of the women's suffrage movement, and she wrote many letters to Congress about how this issue should be addressed.
One big part of the women's suffrage movement was the hunger strikes that occurred during.
The first hunger strike that happened in 1909 was in London's Holloway Prison. The suffragette's name was Marian Dunlop, and she carried out the first official modern-day hunger strike revolving around the suffrage movement.
If women are good enough to care for the family, cooking and cleaning, and sometimes protecting the family, why shouldn't they be able to vote for what they want to?
There was a suffragette headquarters, and that headquarters was located in Cleveland, Ohio. This headquarters provided information about why women should have the right to vote and how they could take matters into their own hands. This headquarters had approximately 4,000 members.
One thing that most people might not know is that 50 years before the women got the right to vote, women would run for political office. Also, many women got arrested by breaking the law during their protests, and in prison was where the hunger strikes would occur.
The women were very clever thinkers when they brought family into the matter too. They made posters and even a song about how if they're good enough to be a mother and a wife, they must be good enough to vote.
Many women during this fight had gotten into trouble with the law because of some of the actions that they took to make a change.
Some got arrested and even went to prison.
Most others just participated in the protests and gave a good effort to make a change. The protests were very well put together. The women who organized them did a very good job.
The Silent Centennials were a women's party organization that put together parts of the White House for 6 days per week, no matter the weather. The Silent Centennials came each day bearing banners protesting and demanding the right to vote for women in America.
Almost 1,000 of the suffragettes were arrested during the protests.
In 1872, the leading suffragette, Susan B. Anthony, was arrested for trying to vote in the presidential election.
She refused to pay her fine of $100. This incident drew attention towards women's suffrage and how women aren't treated as equals to men.
World War I took place during the same time as the women's suffrage movement. It actually caused a bit of interruption towards the movement.
The reformers would postpone focusing on the suffrage going on in the United States and would often take time to focus on the war.
During World War I, the women did jobs such as nurses, writers, and volunteers. This kind of helped with the women's suffrage movement after World War I because they showed that they could work basically the same as men. This really helped bring back a strong argument for the women's suffrage after World War I.
Overall, the women's suffrage movement was a major turning point in history because of the effect that it had on the world.
No man is greater than his mother. No man is quite so good. No man is better than the wife he loves. Her love will guide him, whatever betide him. She's good enough to love you and adore you. She's good enough to bear your troubles for you. And if your tears were falling today, nobody else would kiss them away. She's good enough to warm your heart.
Well, ladies, thanks so much for interviewing me today to talk about the women's suffragettes. You know, as a woman, especially as a professional woman and mother, I just feel like their grit and passion provided us the leeway to be anything we really want to be. Before that, women couldn't even own land, have any type of possessions. We were more or less property of a male, and that's no me gusta. And honestly, because of the two ladies, Susan B. Anthony and Stanton, their push for equal rights. I mean, if you look at history, women have been categorized alongside minorities. The civil rights was a lot like the women's movement. And still today, we still seem to fight for equal pay, for control of our own bodies and choices. And it's a shame. However, I think we are making strides ever since the beginning of this movement in, I believe it was the 20s.
All right, so I know that for many years it was like women were second-class citizens, right? And so women were expected to stay home and, do those things that were considered female things. And women went, wait, why can't I make decisions about our country? Why don't I have a say who our leaders are going to be? And so women organized, came together, and fought for the right to vote, to have an equal voice, saying we are equal citizens. We should be able to choose our leaders as well. And so they had to fight really hard to have it work, to finally get it approved and get, men to allow them, because they had to fight for that, to have an equal voice. And I think it is our responsibility to continue to fight for female rights. We are equal citizens as anyone else in this country, in this world, and we have to be careful that those rights aren't infringed on.
These wonderful ladies basically stated that we have come so far since this movement.
Now women can be whatever they want to be. They can be an astronaut, they can be a pilot, they can even fight in combat, and they can do so much more. Now women can be whatever they want to be in the world and have changed history forever. This is Women for America.